I'm trying to educate myself as much as I can, but do you think the general public is well educated in
I,
voting people
I
like this
don't.
in?
I don't. Welcome to Dumb Guys Talk About Smart Stuff. I think that's the problem. I think you touched on this, where people get a little wisp of the of an issue that they're concerned with, and if they find a candidate who agrees with it, then they kind of just latch onto them, and then they agree with this, so I'm going to go with them, and that's it. And they don't really see the whole picture and understand what's going on. I have a huge beef with the ballot from, I think it was last year, maybe it was 2 years ago, where with the insurance companies, where it was on the ballot in California, where they were going to bring the setting of what do you call it, the insurance thing that you pay, deductibles were going to be a government made decision. There was going to be an elected official to make that decision on what deductibles were, and it's either that or the insurance companies decide on what the deductibles are. Well, who's making money off of deductibles? The insurance company. If the insurance companies set deductibles, they're obviously going to set them high. If there was an elected government official setting those, then they would make fair deductibles. But what happened is you've got millions and millions. I think the contributions to those campaigns was $55 million or something given to that campaign by all the insurance companies. So nobody even really understood what it was about. And the problem is people didn't do the research.
They didn't.
I went and did the research. I looked and I saw, okay, all the insurance companies are supporting it this way. They're the ones that benefit from higher deductibles. And this makes more sense that there's a government official that is impartial setting those rates. And it makes me very angry that the people that voted probably didn't realize that.
Oh, yeah.
They saw the propaganda from the insurance companies saying, oh, do you really want one single person setting your deductibles? Oh, no, you don't want that. Really what they're saying is, don't let somebody take the power out of my hands. Because I want to make all the money.
Don't let the guy you have to pay the deductible to, make the decision what the deductible is.
Right, exactly.
How do you feel about people that vote for Donald Trump right now, and how he's kind of a front runner for the Republican Party?
Well, first of all, I feel very bad for Republicans.
Yeah, it's Kim Davis to Christians. It makes the party look silly.
It makes them look like a joke. And here's my huge problem. Okay, look at Donald Trump. Okay, he was born into a rich family. I think he's got gold toilets in his buildings. Yeah, this guy lives a life of luxury. Has never had to worry about money because his dad. I think he went bankrupt once.
So I was reading about his history. Because I saw like a Joey Diaz rant, who's like a comedian, and he went on a rant about how shady Donald Trump's past business things. And he was the one that just ranted about Obama's birth certificate. Yeah. And, like that's a technicality type thing. So he has a very shady construction in New York past. It's from what I've heard, is kind of like these areas where you can only build if you're in bed with the mafia. From the way I heard it explained and the way I understand it, it's the type of thing to where you say you're doing a project and you hire all these fake companies, type of thing, and they're all giving you envelopes full of cash. It's that type of a situation where he came from. And then the story of his bankruptcy was he built these massive real estate things, overinvested, overpromised, and he cost his investors millions and millions and millions of dollars for forgive him that debt. And so basically he benefited from what you could call welfare for the rich. The thing of like when you become too big to fail, he benefited from that. Yeah. And now he is turning around and being very harsh to these other groups of people.
Right. And again, didn't he come from a rich family? His dad bailed him out. I think I read somewhere, and obviously I can't substantiate this, but it said that that the amount of money he's made in his business transactions wouldn't have been as much as the interest he would have made if he would have took the trust fund he made and put it in an account.
Yeah. And so from what I understand, he's not that much of a businessman. He's very brash. He puts his name on lots of things. He gets things done, but then he fails.
Yeah.
Basically, he
Right.
overpromises.
Yeah.
And I could. Can you imagine him dealing with like things like nuclear missiles
Right.
and pissing off like Iran?
Yeah. Or
North Korea.
even with you know, international democracy, like you know, back and forth between other countries. You know, because he's such a racist.
Yeah.
Like, how do you go talk to somebody face to face, knowing that you've said these racist things about him? You know.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he said terrible things about Mexican people, and what did you hear that quote of like, you know, somebody said, how do you build like a hundred? I don't know how long that fence would be to build it between U.S. and Mexico, but I mean, it's hundreds of thousands of miles. They're
Right.
like, how do you build that? And he's like, well, I built a 120-story building, and that's easier. And so I saw somebody say, if you take 1,000 120-story buildings, lay them on their side, then you've got the fence.
Yeah.
But that's.
So the problem is, where I was going is that he has been rich his whole life. His family's rich. He's had money. He lives in luxury. He's got gold toilets. How can he possibly relate to us?
Well,
To the middle class,
he
to
can't
the
relate to
poor.
us. And how does he make the middle class vote for him?
Yeah. Huh.
Who in the middle class does not just see this as a rich blowhard that
Right. Yeah.
that would just be against the working person?
Well, and here's my problem, or here's my prediction.
Mhm.
If he remains the leading candidate, or he becomes the presidential candidate for the Republicans, they got no chance.
Yeah, they got no chance. I've already seen some statisticians basically saying it's going to be a landslide for the Democrats again.
Yeah.
Whether it's Bernie Sanders or Hillary Clinton or whatever. So, and I almost think the Republican Party might be getting to the point where they need to reform, is it under a new name, something like that.
They got to do something.
Because I mean, their first when they started, in their first big face was Abraham Lincoln. It's like, how far have you fallen from Abraham
Yeah.
Lincoln?
Well, I've read up on the history a little bit, and I think they were called Republicans back then, but I think that Republican Party actually transformed into the Democratic Party that we know today.
Okay.
So they're actually not the Republicans that we know
Mhm.
today.
Yeah, and so, this is, so, and kind of when I was growing up, Ronald Reagan was the man.
Right.
But I've read some things that I think are right. That he's one of the worst presidents we've ever had.
Yeah.
Because wages going up with inflation just completely stopped.
Uh-huh.
It was the beginning of the crash we saw in like 2007, 2008, that
Yeah.
range.
Right.
And that he kind of set all that in motion. And he was a very anti-working person. He was very tax breaks for the rich type
Mhm.
guy. And it's a lot of that system that we see now that's causing a bad economy started with him.
Right. And it's so funny too, because people bash Obama
Mm-hmm.
for, ruining the economy or whatever, destroying what the Republicans had built up. But what did the Republicans do when they were in office? So Bush was in office for 8 years,
Yeah.
and all he did was he was there for the crash of the real estate.
Real estate,
You
and
know,
he started
and
the bailout
the
that a lot of
banks.
people blame Obama for.
Yeah.
Because
right.
I actually saw a picture where they're having a meeting about the bailout,
Mhm.
and it's like the Bush administration, and they had Obama and McCain there because they said one of those two is going to inherit this.
Yeah.
And so it was started with Bush, and he was the one that did the bailout, and that's pretty much welfare for the rich.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And we've seen nothing but growth and promise
Mm-hmm.
since
Whoa.
since taking over. Be careful there, buddy.
Alright.
So I was watching Trump today in a video, and it was like his presidential campaign video. It was on the Republican website,
Mm-hmm.
and he's talking. He's like, "Don't believe those statistics. The unemployment rate's not 5%; it's 20%," and stuff like that. He's like, and China, look at how good they're doing. They're beating us. Well, aren't they in a recession right now, China?
Yeah, they're the ones that keep calling our stock market to have those bad days because their market had
Right,
bad
because
days.
they're doing so bad.
Well, and they're communists.
Yeah,
and
right.
Yeah, so so that's supposed to be our enemy.
Right, yeah.
So are you saying communism is better, Donald Trump?
Right.
And you know what's funny is I heard this kind of analogy is like Republicans are just so over the top criticizing Obama.
Yeah.
And I think no matter what party you are, you can't go that far being disruptive just because the person you disagree with is the president, correct?
Right, yeah.
And so like this do nothing Congress we've had,
Mm-hmm.
to where they're just jockeying, so just to make sure the other party doesn't get their way. It kind of makes me dislike both parties when you see this going on.
I dislike most politics because it's mostly a farce.
Yeah.
But I lean more towards Democrats because I think Republicans are kind of crazy.
Well, and I think they're the working people's thing. The way I see it is I'm not going to affiliate myself with one party. I think right now it's good for the working person to vote for the Democrat and see through these things that get the working people to vote for Republican right now.
And I don't like to affiliate myself with anything, like whether it be a political party or any groups, a religious group or a church, things like that, because I'm going to believe what I'm going to believe. I'm going to follow my beliefs, and just because this group's going this way doesn't mean I'm going to follow it.
Yeah.
I just wanted to bring up a point because you said something that made me think of this. Trump keeps talking about putting this wall up along the Mexican border. He wants to stop letting foreigners in.
Yeah.
And he went on. He's like, Iraq doesn't let them in, doesn't let foreigners in. Afghanistan doesn't let foreigners in. China doesn't let foreigners in. All of these countries that we, Iran doesn't let foreigners in. All of these countries that we don't want to be like. And he's like, let's be like them.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the thing that's such misinformation, because I'm going through right now. My wife is from Brazil, and we're going through the whole immigration process. It is not easy in the United States.
Right.
I mean, we had to fill up so much paperwork, and we actually had a coworker leave the country because the other country was easier.
Because it was too difficult.
Yeah, and I think it's just the education of the voters, and I kind of I don't totally put that on voters because people are busy, things are complicated. And the way the news is, like news channels have an agenda now.
The news channels do have an agenda. Everybody's got an agenda. That's why you have to go and you have to research yourself.
Yeah.
If you're gonna go out there and put your name on something, you have to know what you're putting your name on and why you're doing it.
Yeah, and that's why you remember those voter die campaigns that like had P. Diddy and stuff in it, like on MTV trying to get young people to vote.
Oh yeah. Right.
And all this stuff. Like I personally, I might not agree with me, but I personally, if you didn't have time to research an election, I think it's okay to sit out voting.
Yeah.
Rather than getting on board with a wave, some misinformation, running out there and maybe voting against yourself.
I know that I'm ranting, and people say, "Oh, if you don't vote, you can't talk about it." Well, fuck you.
Yeah.
I don't vote.
Yeah. Well, I think that running out there and voting when you're not educated can be worse than not voting.
Right, and it might go back to that thing where I don't want to put my hat in someone else's ring because
I know some people that say that, and but then I've seen them. They just have a list, and you read through a list, and it's like you can tell they just watched Fox News and wrote down what they're going to vote for.
Yeah, right.
And Fox News has a huge agenda.
Well, right, and you can't believe everything you see on TV.
Yeah.
You gotta do the research. Look at what it is. Look at who is contributing to this as well. Like I said with the insurance thing, if the insurance companies are putting their money there and they're the ones that are going to benefit from higher deductibles, then maybe you should think twice about putting that power in their hands because they really want that power.
Yeah, and you gotta realize things can be twisted to make it. Like a 2-minute commercial or like a 2-minute segment of news, they'll say something extravagant, then cut to commercials.
Yeah, well,
you don't have all the facts.
It's all about ratings. That's their main agenda.
Yeah.
Ratings. And what are ratings? Money.
Well,
advertisers.
Also,
it's all about money.
There's that ratings. Then there's also.